Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. I'm back for another Shadowlands Alpha news update. So been letting the news build for a little while. It's been kind of quiet in terms of big major news for Shadowlands. So wanted to make sure I had enough content for a good stream. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the, quick, easy, kind of interesting Shadowlands updates. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into some class changes that have happened, and we're going to spend the most of our time taking a look at the class covenant abilities because we have, I believe, all or the vast majority of those available. So we're going to take a look at those and kind of see how they shake out. Some of them I've looked at, some of them I haven't. I like to be a little surprised for these streams myself and, give some actual reactions and all that kind of stuff too. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and dive deep. And don't forget to like this stream if you're having a good time or if you're watching the video later. All right, so the first big piece of news, hopefully I have all this stuff in order, is Blizzard has confirmed that currently Shadowlands is still on track to release sometime during Q4 2020. That basically means that we are looking at a Shadowlands launch sometime in November, maybe early December at the moment. Now, that's not confirmed. They didn't give an exact date. They just said, hey, we're still on track for Q4. So we can kind of look forward to that. That does let us know that we're still several months off at this point. Probably a good, at this point, we're looking at six or so months, maybe. There's still always the possibility that the actual expansion gets pushed back due to whatever, all the different stuff going on and, all the work from home situation. Like, there are things that definitely could still push Shadowlands into like Q1 2021. They're definitely doing a lot of testing on the alpha servers and stuff, which is good. We want that. That's something that they kind of skipped over for the most part for Battle for Azeroth, and we definitely don't want to see a repeat of that. So it's nice that they're doing the testing, but with the testing and the feedback, they may find that they have a little more work to do than they expected. But it is nice to know that the planned launch is Q4 2020. That does let us know that, hey, we should hopefully have Shadowlands for Christmas break, which would be pretty awesome. And even if we don't, then we're probably looking at Q1 2021. So we got a time frame, right? We know it's not coming in the summer. We know it's not coming in the fall. We got a ways to wait. So you can kind of figure that out and, decide what you want to do in the meantime. So yeah, we've got confirmation from J. Allen Brack, launch Q4. Provided there's no, delays. All right, moving along. We've got a couple of just random things here. We're going to blaze through these really quick. I just wanted to kind of show off. This is some of the data mined mounts in like a hunter pet or two. So we've got this one. I actually really like this one quite a lot. It's funny. I've been kind of ragging on the Ardenwell faction for Shadowlands. There's 4 covenants that you can be a part of, and I've really been ragging on the Ardenwell, but like based on the mounts I've seen and some of the armor they showed off, I actually do really like the way that they look. So I don't know, maybe they just did a bad job on the preview, like the covenant preview at BlizzCon and stuff like that for me, and showed a lot of stuff that I wasn't interested in, because the things that I have seen both here and like the Soulbind system and stuff, there's a lot of cool stuff going on Ardenweald. So I am coming around, and I really do like this mount. I think it's pretty cool. I can't remember if we looked at this one last time or if I looked at it like immediately after the last stream, but it's real cool. I like it a lot. We also have a Maldraxxus Epic Giant Beast mount. This one is pretty cool too. It's like a lizard ram thing. I mean, that's pretty awesome looking as well. I like this, the crazy little twin tails thing. It's pretty fly. Not gonna lie, it's pretty fly. We have a tameable wind steed hunter pet. I don't know, this thing is pretty ugly to me. It's like a Talbot lizard or something. Not a fan. Don't think I'll be using it, but there you go. Another tameable hunter pet. Then we have a Ardenwell moth. This is also a mount that's going to be available. I don't like this one as much as the other one, but man, it is pretty. I don't know, man. I'm like starting to like this a little more than I did before. This is definitely one of the better like moth models in the game in terms of mounts. The ones from, Burning Crusade, those are not the coolest looking models. These are definitely an upgrade. And then finally, we have a bit of information here. So in the most recent Shadowlands build, all Courser, Nightmare, and Dream Runner type horse mounts have been changed from ground mounts into flying ones. So if you happen to have any of those, which I think I have a couple of these, I definitely have the one that we got from doing the like hidden puzzle in Legion, I want to say. Then you're going to be able to fly around on them now, apparently, in Shadowlands. So that's pretty interesting. All right, that's all the kind of like fluff news we have. Moving on, we're going to take a look at some updates to the Eclipse system for Balanced Druid. So talked about this before in previous videos, how Balanced Druid is being kind of reworked, and it's gone back to what the setup was around Wrath of the Lich King, using the Eclipse system, where you basically cast, a bunch of your nature spells to build up to a eclipse, and then you would spend that eclipse on like all your lunar stuff, and then you would build up your lunar stuff to a different eclipse and spend all your nature stuff, and you just kind of went back and forth. Basically, Blizzard has made some updates to this system to make it a little less RNG, so that you can actually plan out your eclipses. You know exactly what's going to happen. You can line up your abilities, because before it was kind of felt like a random proc, and you might have been in the middle of trying to do something, and all of a sudden you get an eclipse, and you're just kind of having to throw everything over to this eclipse, play style or rotation, and that just didn't feel good, not knowing when that was going to happen. And then here the idea of the 30 seconds wasn't worth all the confusion. It was intended to simply, this was an internal cooldown, intended to simply alternate eclipses in long combat, so it's clear to straightforwardly do that. So basically, they just made some change to make it a little less random, and to make it so that you're basically just alternate back and forth between your eclipses. It sounds like a good change. I still personally don't know if I'm all that excited about the Eclipse system, but I have zero intention of maining a Balanced Druid in Shadowlands, so I'm not overly invested in the changes that are being made. And for me, it's kind of like, what, I'll play it when I get the chance and see how it feels. I just feel like Balanced Druid has been something I generally haven't enjoyed for quite a while now, even though it was like one of my two main characters in Burning Crusade a long time ago. So those changes did come. And then also we have a couple of new slash commands that are available in Shadowlands. Countdowns and pull timers are now available to every player. This is something that you'd be able to do mainly through like Deadly Boss mods or Bigwigs, but now it's going to be available without any add-ons. So pretty cool thing there. You get a countdown timer big on the screen. And if your countdown is too long, it shows it as a bar at the top of the screen instead. So just a little quality of life stuff. Hey Cass, how's it going? Maybe you'll be streaming when I get home. If not, I'll watch the upload. Well, we'll see. I don't think this is going to be an incredibly long stream today, unlike some of the other ones. All right, moving along, we've got updates to Torghast, Tower of the Damned. So some of the updates here. Warriors were added as playable classes for Torghast, which is pretty cool. Priests have new anima powers. There's a new cell block added called the Soul Forges. Let's see, what else? I think that was all that I was really interested in here. Yeah, so we got warriors added, new anima powers for priests, and a new cell block added to Torghast. So speaking of the warriors in Torghast, we got the anima powers for the warriors. So I wanted to take a look at a few of these and see how interesting they are. As you know, I am super excited about Torghast. It's one of the main things that's making me interested in playing Shadowlands. Obviously, you're going to go through the quest content one time, and that's going to be fine. And, then you just kind of go into the normal World of Warcraft stuff, which honestly doesn't really keep me hooked too much. Once I get all the classes leveled up, I kind of lose interest. But Torghast is actually really making me excited. The roguelike element of the tower is something I'm super interested to get into and try out. So I definitely want to keep an eye on the kinds of things that they're doing for the classes. So I wanted to take a look at, maybe not all of them, but a few of the warrior anima powers. As you know, like warrior is one of my main classes from Battle for Azeroth, so I'm pretty familiar with it, and I'm trying to see, do these sound exciting? Do these sound fun? So the first one we have here is Singing Stones. It says the duration of one of your shouts is increased by 500%. Which shout the Singing Stones effect is revealed when this power is selected. So you can do your Demoralizing Shout, Piercing Howl, Challenging Shout, Intimidating Shout, Rallying Cry, and Battle Shout. Honestly, I don't find this to be super interesting unless there are other powers that can augment these shouts to do something else. I like Demoralizing Shout with the talent that makes you deal increased damage to enemies, but you really don't need it to last 500% longer. Maybe you do in the tower. Maybe you go through stuff fast enough that, you're able to have it up for multiple packs of enemies. But I don't know, a lot of these shouts, that's the thing about them, is you kind of use them as a shorter term cooldown. They don't usually have like really long cooldowns, like 5 minutes or something like that. It's 30 seconds or a minute and a half, and that's usually feels pretty fine. I mean, right now I can demo shout maybe every pack of mobs or every other pack of mobs pretty easily. So I don't know if extending the shouts, not super excited. Let's take a look at another one randomly. Umbral Ear Trumpet. Your shouts cause you to yell another random shout. Okay, so we're sticking with the shout theme with my randomness here. That's interesting, weird. If these random shouts don't trigger the cooldown of your normal shout, that would be pretty cool. Like if you hit Demoralizing Shout and then all of a sudden you also do like your Rallying Cry, but it doesn't use the cooldown for Rallying Cry, that could be potentially pretty cool. Let's do another one. Soul Rot Studs. Your armor and block value are increased by 10. Yeah, that's super boring. Your shouts last 100% longer. That's not interesting. Berserker Rage lasts 100% longer and also causes your party members to go berserk. Okay, that's cool. That's thematically, kind of fun. Like, get in there and it's like, okay, anytime I hit Berserker's Rage, everybody goes berserk. That's actually thematically just kind of cool. Let's see. Mortal Strike, Rampage, Shield Slam has a 33% chance to cast Whirlwind. Okay. Interesting. Damage of Mortal Strike, Rampage, and Shield Slam are increased by 20%. Man, these numbers seem really tuned down. I'm not getting excited by 20%. I'm getting excited by like 50%, 75%. Double damage, Man, not that thrilling. Activating Blade Storm, Recklessness, or Avatar randomly cast one of the other two abilities. That's pretty cool, especially, like I said, if, you aren't taking up the cooldown of that ability. That'd be pretty sweet. Like Avatar, and all of a sudden you go into Blade Storm as well. That'd be interesting. These seem okay. I'm not like super excited about these, but I also don't intend to main a warrior in Shadowlands either, so. All right, Druid and Shaman are now available in Torghast on the Shadowlands Alpha, and we've got a list of some anima powers for them as well, so I wanted to take a look at a couple of these. As we know, Druid is not a class that I think I'm intending to main during Shadowlands, but Shaman, especially Enhancement Shaman, is one that I am strongly considering. It's in my top 2, top 3 at the moment, so let's take a look at Druid real quick. Let's see. Bark Skin and Iron Bark deal 50% spell power damage to all attackers. Okay. Your damage and heal over time effects occur 33% more quickly. That's fine too. That really pumps that damage up, gets things down a lot quicker. You permanently have the benefits of Heart of the Wild. Okay, cool. You automatically cast a spell when you shapeshift. And depending on what form you go into? Oh, that's cool. You go into Moonkin form and just cast Starfall. That's interesting. Shape-shifting increases the damage or healing of your next Shred, Mangle, Wrath, or Regrowth by 200%. So they kind of encourage you to bounce back and forth for that. All right, let's take a look at some of the Shaman ones. Fire damage dealt by you and your summons increases the damage the target takes from your lava burst by 3%, stacking up to 99 times. Wow. Okay, that's kind of fun. Let's see. Chains of Devastation. Casting Chain Heal makes your next Chain Lightning instant cast. Casting Chain Lightning makes your next Chain Heal instant. Whoa. Does that just go back and forth? That's actually kind of cool. Man, that would eat your mana super fast, though. Let's see. Hex now drains 2% of the target's maximum health every 2 seconds. It's healing you for the amount drained. This damage will not break Hex. That's really cool, actually. That's like a bonus on top of the CC. That encourages you to play smart and actually Hex, you know, some enemies, some targets that maybe are high priority or you want to remove from the fight. I like that a lot. I think, you know, that's a cool bonus, and it encourages you to not just run in and, you know, zerg through everything. That's pretty cool. Ghostly Speed. Ghost Wolf increases your speed by an additional 20%. That's not super exciting, but I'll take it. Let's see. Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning damage increased by 30%. Stunning or knocking down an enemy increases their damage taken by 25% permanently. Casting Flame Shock also casts Frost Shock. That's cool. That's like a convenience sort of thing there. Placing a totem causes you to drop another random totem. It's weird, but I like this effect better than I do with the warriors because, I don't know, there's a lot of totems. There's a lot of cool random effects you could get. Kind of like that. Flame Shock lasts forever. That's really cool. I actually really like talenting into the Warlock ability that makes Corruption. I think it's Corruption. Last forever. So Flame Shock lasting forever. That's actually really cool on a couple of levels. I mean, Flame Shock, if you're playing as an elemental shaman, you know, that's the thing that gets your procs for your lava burst. I believe so. So having that up forever means you don't have to refresh it. That's actually pretty cool. And then for enhancement shaman, that's just some extra damage. Earthquake is 30% larger. Flame Shock's damage over time effect now happens 20% more frequently. That gives you a chance to proc that instant cast lava burst that much more often. Yeah, I'm a little more. Maybe it's just the classes that I'm interested in playing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit more excited about those. But these shaman powers, they actually look pretty fun. I like them. I approve. I'd definitely be interested in getting in there and trying some of these out. Oh, I want to play Torghast so bad. I really do. I really want to try Torghast out quite a bit. And there's a bit of news coming up that I think like it makes me more excited about it. Because I kind of expressed a potential negative or a concern that I thought might come up with Torghast, and it seems like Blizzard is addressing it. We're gonna get to it. All right, moving on from Torghast, we talked about Soulbinds in the last news video and kind of dove really deep into those and looked at some of them. We're not going to go through and look at the rest of them today. We'll do that in a different video. I really want to focus on the Covenant abilities today. But one of the things I did want to show off here is we had an interview from Preach with Morgan Day. He's I believe the lead encounter designer for World of Warcraft. And they kind of touched on a few different things, but one of them was the conduits. And we actually got some examples of conduits, and they talked a little bit about the role that conduits could play. So it says, in the current iteration, each soulbind has a capstone trait, which augments the Covenant signature ability. Okay, we saw that, as well as several smaller bonuses in an artifact-like tree of progression. And we looked at those as well. It says, interestingly, each tree has empty slots, which will be socketed with soulbind conduits coming in 3 varieties, throughput, survival, and utility. So we saw those as well, and they all seem to have like a really generic bonus for slotting in. Like I think utility was increased movement speed or something like that. It says with each soulbind offering different bonuses as well as different conduit slots in different locations, and some conduits are teased as specific to certain covenants. There's a great deal more customization and power progression related to covenants than just the class ability they offer. The majority of conduits in the Wowhead database are currently placeholder, though there are a few effects for druids to preview, although they may not be finalized either. So there are some placeholder ones here, but we can still get an idea of kind of what some of the ideas are. So like high winds, it says Cyclone leaves the target reeling, reducing their movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. So this actually is slotting in and augmenting an actual ability that you use for your class. It's not the Covenant ability, it's Cyclone, which is a crowd control ability for druids. Controlled Affinity says the cooldowns of Typhoon, Maim, Incapacitating Roar, and Ursul's Vortex are reduced by 10%. Jumping over, we have Ethereal Shape. Soul Shape reduces damage you take by 15%. Let's see. Steel Leaves, Bark Skin applies Iron Fur, and its cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. So this one over here, Dark Star. During Lunar Eclipse, Starfire has a 20% chance to Moonfire your primary target. Star Shower says Starfall extends the duration of your active Moonfires on enemies within the area by 4 seconds. So looking at this stuff, we were kind of going through and talking about some of the class customization and like how interesting the class gameplay was going to be for Shadowlands. So first off, we have the Tower of Torghast, which is its own separate thing. There's a lot going on there that I think is really going to make playing the tower and doing some interesting stuff with your class a lot of fun. Outside of that, we have the Covenant ability for the classes, and we also have the Signature Covenant ability for each of those as well. We looked at the Soulbind Calculator, which, taking out the conduits, just seems to provide a lot of interesting, not really class ability modifying, class gameplay modifying features, but a lot of cool utility and sort of like flavorful abilities that I thought were really interesting. Not necessarily that they made your gameplay more complicated or gave you really compelling choices to make, but they did seem fun and they just seemed, useful and interesting. But now we have this conduit system, which was in there before, but we've kind of got a preview of what the intention is with the conduit system. And with these conduits potentially affecting the way that your abilities function, we've now got another layer on top of everything else to help make our class gameplay that much more interesting. So this is a very good sign to me. And we may have passed it, we may get to it, but I want to mention it here. One of the things that Blizzard has talked about with the conduit system is that they can use the conduit system to help buff up areas that covenants are lacking in. So let's say that the Druid Covenant ability for Maldraxxus is a big AoE, type of ability, but it's really lacking in single target. Well, they could make some Covenant specific conduits that will help buff up the single target abilities for druids within that covenant, which can kind of help them make up for, the fact that their signature ability is a big AoE ability. Now, that obviously comes with the downside of, if that's the way they want to balance things, then you might feel like you're forced into those single target conduits, to make up for that AoE, which takes away some of your choice, but that may not be the case. We'll have to wait and see. It looks like the conduit system is still, at least in terms of what we can see, in its early stages. And we're just going to have to wait and see. But I think, looking at some conduit examples here, even if they're just placeholder, this does look a lot more promising. These look like the kind of abilities that you would get on the artifact weapon, but they're kind of like plug and play, swap in, swap out. Eventually on your artifact weapon, you just picked up everything. And at that point, it's not really a talent tree, right? It's just more stuff added to your abilities. But I appreciated everything they did with the artifact weapons anyway, and this seems like a good version of that system. So I am pretty excited about this now. I think soulbinds are actually where the gameplay within Shadowlands is getting a little bit more interesting for me. Not necessarily the Covenant abilities, although some of them are cool. We're going to look at them here in a minute. But, you know, they are what they are. You pick a Covenant, that's the abilities that you get. The choice you're making is choosing the Covenant, and that's, you know, that's about it. All right, for those of you who have shown up here, welcome to the stream. We're getting into the good stuff now. We just got a couple of things left here. But they'll take a little bit of time because we're going to go over the Covenant abilities. Don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying the stream. And with that said, let's check it out. So we're going to pop that one over. And we're going to talk about this one. So we have an in-game preview of Gamepad support for Shadowlands. Now, we're not going to jump into this too much. Basically, Blizzard is adding the compatibility for gamepads in World of Warcraft. Some people were asking, does this mean World of Warcraft is coming to consoles? Blizzard said, no, that's not the intention. The intention is they want to make the game more accessible. There is an add-on currently that will allow you to use Gamepad support in World of Warcraft. I've used it myself several times. It's pretty nice. It can be a pain in the butt to set up, but it is really, really nice. For, I would say, leveling and content that isn't excessively difficult, I think all the situations that I use CirclePy or OPI in, you could use the gamepad as well. This is something I'm definitely interested in trying out, you know, the native support for gamepads. And when this comes through, I will definitely be making a video on how to set this up and how it functions. But I did want to take a second. This is from Steven on Twitter. It's at Steven_SRB. I just want to take a quick look. And of course, the media cannot be played. Oh well, there goes our preview. Maybe you can get it to work. Might be an ad blocker thing on my end. But you can see here how things are kind of set up, where you can put in your gamepad controls in here. He's using a Logitech gamepad. I've done it with the Xbox gamepad using the add-on itself. So it's interesting to see this coming in. And like I said, I'll definitely check it out. You know, anything that makes the game more accessible and makes it so that I don't have to do a bunch of stuff that'll aggravate my carpal tunnel is definitely a plus for me. So I'm very, very interested in this and interested in getting to use it. Next up, this is some more information from the interview that Preach did with Morgan Dre. And this is kind of interesting. There's a couple things in here that I think are really important. Some of the other stuff is just, you know, it is what it is. But basically this top line here is the thing that I really wanted to focus on. So based on community feedback, Blizzard is now considering a mode to infinitely play Torghast for prestige rewards. So it says the infinite mode was compared to the Mage Tower and the prestige rewards, but there will also be the regular mode that requires keys that will drop legendary components. So it sounds like maybe there's going to be two modes of Torghast. There's going to be the normal mode you got to get the keys for, and it'll drop the legendary components, and the amount of times that you can play it will be limited, but they may have this infinite prestige mode where you can play the tower and maybe earn a currency or achievements or something like that in order to unlock you know, other kinds of rewards. Maybe it'll be a thing like island expeditions where there are pets or transmogs or mounts or whatever that you can get from the tower. And you'll be able to play this infinitely without having to have a key to do so. I really, really hope that they do this because Torghast sounds like the fun part of the expansion for me. And I think I mentioned this before. One of the ways they could screw it up is by having it limited like they have done with Horrific Visions, where you have to, you know, build up a bunch of this currency to trade in for a key to get in. And, you know, you can do it like 3 times or whatever a week, or, you know, like limiting stuff to that degree, I think is a way to really suck the fun out of something that people may want to do all the time. And so I really hope they put this infinite mode in, and prestige rewards. That's cool. I like that. I'm totally down for that. I prefer that kind of stuff anyway, over the other stuff, because I don't know. I've never felt the compulsion to get legendary items and stuff like that for any reason, except for during Legion, because they had some really cool effects. But at the same time, when you're playing like 12 characters, it gets really difficult to get the farm in for that kind of, really rare, hard to work for sort of stuff. So being able to just jump in and try to get some prestige rewards on the classes that I like playing sounds like a lot of fun. So a couple other things here. It says the main goal of Torghast is to create a piece of content or a game mode that hasn't been seen in WoW before. Possibilities are endless. Lots of the developers are playing roguelike games themselves. As far as, class fantasy, it says the focus on Torghast is class fantasy, not necessarily spec fantasy. And that's fine. It probably just means that, they're tuning the anima powers so that as many of them as possible can be applied across all the specs for a particular class. And that makes sense to me, because if they want a good amount of variety, they're not going to want to have if they've got 10 anima powers per spec, that's fine. But if they made them class focused, they could have, 30 or 40 or whatever anima powers that could apply basically to all the specs. And that's a lot more interesting, provides a lot more variety, really kind of changes the variables as far as, how often you're going to get a unique combination of powers during your run. So yeah, I'm cool with that. I like that quite a bit. I want to say, let's see, at max level, you get to choose your covenant, which gives you a covenant signature ability and class. You also get to soul bind a member of your covenant, like we talked about before. They also said that Torghast will be available right at launch. So that's nice. There won't be a delay to get into the tower, other than I believe the tower is accessible after you hit max level. So you will have to get max level and then be able to jump into the tower. Yes, this is the last thing in this article that I wanted to touch on. I thought this was pretty funny. So Legion Syndrome is real, which is the removal of expansion systems and the class feeling like you're missing something. For example, at the end of Legion, when you lost the artifact weapon, those systems made it, like taking that away, made it feel like your class was really dumbed down, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. There wasn't a lot of complexity, like your class was missing stuff. And they did a pretty poor job of trying to fill that void with the Azerite armor system. So they said this, they agreed with this, and then here in the next line it says, Legion and Battle for Azeroth had systems on top of systems, which is true. And that's kind of what they're talking about here with the Legion system, of how when the expansion goes away, it feels like your class is missing something. So what are they going to do about it? It says, the idea for Shadowlands is to have legendaries, soulbinds, conduits, and more systems to fill the void immediately. So they're not fixing the problem of having, these systems that fill the void and are that these systems that kind of prop up your class gameplay. It sounds like the core, like based on this, I think the core class gameplay is not going to be as complex and interesting as we would hope it would be, but that they are going to prop it up with all these different systems: legendary, soulbinds, conduits, artifact weapon, battle for Azeroth, the Azerite armor system. Those kind of systems are going to continue to prop up class gameplay and try to make it interesting. But the difference here is that instead of, like in Battle for Azeroth, where we had the armor system, then we had the essences, then we had the cloak, and they kind of came at different points throughout the expansion, it sounds like for Shadowlands, what they want to do is drop all that stuff right away, so that you're not kind of feeling like you're playing the, alpha version of your class at the outset, and then the beta version midway through, and then finally the full version when the expansion's almost over. It sounds like they just want to put you at the full version right away and give you access to all these systems as soon as possible. So it's good news. It's bad news. It's good news because we'll get to dive into these systems right away, and we'll be able to, really tweak and play with the gameplay for our classes. It's bad news because I really do think this means that the core class gameplay is probably going to be a little less satisfying than I would hope, at least, because it is going to be propped up so much by these systems. All right, and that brings us to the chunky meat of the stream, which is taking a look at all the Covenant and Signature abilities. All right, so we basically have pretty much all of them. So we're going to take a look at these, and we're going to go through them, and I'm going to try to provide a little bit of feedback on them, but I don't want to spend too much time on these because we have about 48, I think, or so ish of them. 30. We've got quite a few. So if I don't think it's overly interesting, I'm probably just gonna say and move on to the next one. So starting out with Death Knight. So these are all in order: Kyrian, Venthyr, Necrolord, Night Fae. Quick recap for those of you who may not be familiar. Kyrian is tied to the Bastion Zone. They're kind of the paladin, holy warrior looking group. Venthyr is tied to Rivendreth, and they're kind of the vampire-y, vampire hunter D, Helsing, Dracula kind of looking faction. Necrolord is Maldraxxus, and they kind of look like the undead warlock, think the Plaguelands kind of vibe. And then Night Fae is the Ardenweld faction, and they have a very nature, druid, fairy sort of theme going on. All right, so for Death Knight, we have the Kyrian. Shackle the Unworthy. Admonish your target for their past transgressions, reducing the damage they deal to you by 5% and dealing 175% of attack power arcane damage over 14 seconds. Okay, so a little bit of damage reduction, good chunk of damage over time, arcane damage. Interesting. While Shackle the Unworthy is active on an enemy, rune spinning attacks reduce its cooldown by 4 seconds. Okay. Yeah, I mean, sounds pretty vanilla. Little bit of damage reduction, little damage over time, and then you can reduce the cooldown by spinning runes, which you're probably just going to do your regular rotation. So it's probably going to be fairly easy to calculate how far you can reduce that cooldown. Swarming Mist. A heavy mist surrounds you for 8 seconds, increasing your dodge chance by 10%. Deals 20% of attack power shadow damage every 1 second to enemies within 10 yards. So 80% of your attack power over the total duration. Every time it deals damage, you gain 3 runic power, up to a maximum amount of 15 runic power. Okay. Every time it deals damage, you gain 3 runic power, up to a maximum amount of 15 runic power. That sounds like it should be 3 runic power per target, up to a maximum of 15. I don't know if that's actually the case, but that sounds like if the total you can get from this whole ability is 15 runic power, that's not that much. If it's 15 runic power per tick of damage, that actually makes a little more sense. Either way, I like this one better than Shackle the Unworthy. It's a cool, you get chance to dodge, that's fine. But dealing that AoE damage around you within 10 yards, that's actually pretty nice. And then the runic power boost from that, there's a lot of abilities that you want to spend your runic power on. That gives you your death strike. That gives you quite a few things. I like this one quite a bit. All right, Abomination Limb. Sprout an additional limb for 12 seconds. Every 2 seconds, it deals 45% of attack power shadow damage to all nearby enemies and pulls an enemy to your location if they are further than 8 yards from you. That's actually really cool as well. It's got a 2-minute cooldown, so a little bit longer cooldown than the others here, but it's got a kind of like built-in crowd control. That's actually pretty sweet. I think I would like this a lot on a Blood DK. Just in general, this would be pretty fun. There's sometimes, enemies just run away from you while you're tanking them. For the most part, you should have threat on them, and but I've been in some dungeons, a lot of pug dungeons. That's what I play, where someone pulls an extra group or whatever, and being able to pop Abomination Limb and have some additional shadow damage being dealt, and also just randomly pulling enemies in if they get too far away. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. And then Death's Due. This replaces Death and Decay, which is a awesome ability. Definitely like that ability on... well, this is available to all specs now. Primarily, I was mainly just using it on Blood DK. Sometimes you use it with the Unholy DK as well. But now it's available to all specializations. It says, corrupts the targeted ground, causing some math. Shadow damage over 10 seconds to targets within the area. Enemies deal 1% reduced damage to you, up to a maximum of 15%, and their power is transferred to you as an equal amount of strength. Okay, while you remain within the area, you get your, AoE Heart Strike and Necrotic Strike, just like you do with Death and Decay. Scourge Strike and Clawing Shadows will hit all enemies near the target. Okay, sounds about right. Okay, so... this is like Death and Decay, except it gives you, in addition to dealing damage, it's going to reduce damage dealt to you and transfer power to you as strength. That sounds pretty cool as well. Not super exciting. I think out of all these, just, I'm reading them on paper, not getting the chance to play them. I think Swarming Mist and Abomination Limb sound pretty fun. Death's Due, I think, is probably going to be good in practice. It's just not super exciting on paper. And then Shackle the Unworthy, it pales in comparison to this. Plus, I'm not going Kyrian on the Death Knight anyway, right? That was my holy Death Knight. All right, let me know if you are a Death Knight main. Whenever I get to the class here, let me know, what you're the most interested in, what ability sounds the most exciting to you. Whether you're watching here live or you're watching later on, drop it in the comments section below. Let me know what you think is fun, and let me know if there's something like super obvious that makes an ability way better than what I think it is, or way worse. Give me some feedback on that. I'm interested to see. I want to know also, like, if you main this class or you're going to, like, what covenant are you going and why? Is it because of the abilities that are there? Is it because of the theme, the look of them? I'm really interested to see, what is the reason people choose the covenant that they do choose? Because I think even if Kyrian had a really great ability, I still wouldn't go Kyrian on my Death Knight just because it seems weird thematically. And I'm not like really big into hardcore role playing, but I kind of like everything to match. Like, it makes sense to me. Like, my Worgen Death Knight probably wouldn't join the faction that looks like a bunch of paladins, right? Probably would go to one of the other three. Maybe not the Night Fae, maybe. So I don't know. I'm interested to see, what your thoughts are on that. All right, Demon Hunter, Elysian Decree. Place a Kyrian sigil at the target location that activates after 2 seconds. It detonates to deal 120% of attack power, arcane damage, and shatter up to 3 lesser soul fragments from enemies affected by the sigil. Sounds pretty cool. Sigils on Demon Hunters are pretty sweet. I like them quite a bit. And they also generally look pretty cool. So if this has a cool looking effect, sweet. Sinful Brand. Brand an enemy with the mark of Venthyr, reducing their melee and casting speeds by 30% and inflicting 400% of attack power shadow damage over 8 seconds. Activating Metamorphosis applies Sinful Brand to all nearby enemies. That's cool. I really like that one, actually. I like it a lot because of the Metamorphosis activation, which you're not going to be doing all the time, which, kind of waters down the excitement a little bit, but I still think it's cool. Like, I like Metamorphosis as a big chunky cooldown, and this makes it even more chunky, even more impactful. So I like that quite a bit. I don't know what faction I'd want to go with my Demon Hunter either. Fodder to the Flame. Commission a duel to the death against a condemned demon from the theater of... What the... What? Commission a duel to the death against a condemned demon from the theater of pain. Vanquishing your foe releases its demon soul and creates a pool of demon blood. Fighting within the pool increases your attack speed by 20% and reduces the damage that enemies deal to you by 10%. Fleshcraft treats the condemned demon as a powerful enemy. What? What? Okay, so it sounds like you just cast this on a target, and then when you kill the target, you get a pool of demon blood to stand in, and it increases your attack speed. Weird. That's weird. The Hunt. Charge to an enemy, inflicting 250% of attack power nature damage and rooting them in place for 3 seconds. The target is marked for 1 minute, increasing your fury from Demon's Bite and shear against them by 50%. You may reactivate the Hunt every 30 seconds to teleport behind the marked target, ignoring line of sight. That just sounds cool. I mean, I just really like mobility abilities, and Demon Hunters already have a bunch, and you might think that it's enough, but it's never enough. So, yeah, I'd like to charge an enemy and do a big chunk of damage. Yeah, and then that increased fury, I like that. That's cool. The Hunt, man, isn't that one of Illidan's abilities in Heroes of the Storm, I think? I want to say it is. I think it's his ultimate. One of his ultimates. Yeah, these look fun. Once again, I don't know why. Like Kyrian is looking like the low totem pole covenant for me, but I do think the sigil is pretty cool as well. Lost Soul, still wondering if I play Shadowlands. Looks need to be in line. Yep, I hear you on that. Like I think the looks need to be in line as well. The charge sounds total anime. Like I said, yeah, it's definitely an ultimate ability from Heroes of the Storm for Illidan. And it's pretty cool. You can like charge all the way across the map with it. It is very anime. But demons are very anime, or demon hunters, so. All right, what do you think, Demon Hunter mains? Which ability sounds the most interesting to you? All right, moving on to Druid. So we got a complicated one here for Kyrian. Kindred Spirits. Form a bond with an ally. Every 1 minute, you may empower the bond for 10 seconds, granting you an effect based on your partner's role and granting them an effect based on your role. Oh, we did take a look at this one before. So if you're Guardian, you protect your partner, redirecting 40% of the damage they take to you, unless you fall below 20% health. Okay. Resto, you focus on your bonded partner, replicating 50% of all healing you deal onto them. That sounds pretty cool. It sounds like you can focus on healing the tank, but also like off heal someone else, like splash heal them as well. That's pretty cool. Balance and Feral, energize your bonded partner, granting them 1 primary stat for every 50 damage you deal. Okay. Oh, 2% base mana. 2.5 second cast, 40-yard range, 1 hour duration. That actually... Oh, okay. So it's a 1 hour bond, and every minute you can empower it for 10 seconds. Okay, so you don't have to like continually recast this on someone, but you do have to mash the button in order to get the effect. Okay, that's cool. This seems like a really fun, like, you know, you go out and you do world quests with your wife or husband or girlfriend or whatever. And, you know, you guys just run around and you've got this kindred spirits bond. That sounds fun. Also probably great for raids, you know. That's interesting. Not overly exciting, but I think this is a very solid ability. Dang it, Kyrian, you need to just come out and just be like, boom, here you go. Give me something that I'm super excited about. Maybe this just isn't on theme for me. I mean, it's on theme for Kyrian, but you know, for me, maybe I just don't get excited about it. Ravenous Frenzy. For 20 seconds, druid spells you cast increase your damage, healing, and haste by 2%, stacking. If you spend 1.5 seconds idle, the frenzy overcomes you, consuming 3% of your health per stack, stunning you for 1 second, and then ending. So, like, no matter what, this happens unless you just keep going for 20 seconds. Okay. I don't know, this makes me think, like, you hit Ravenous Frenzy, and then you just face roll your keyboard. Just, like, keep pressing buttons, keep doing something. Oh, man, I need to see this as a meme. I need to see someone just Ravenous Frenzy, and then just roll their face across the keyboard. Maybe that's a meme I make, I don't know. Thematic, it's definitely thematic. It's kind of boring. I mean, like, the stats and stuff are good, like increased damage and haste. That's great. But yeah, it is kind of like just boring. Adaptive Swarm. Command a swarm that heals or deals shadow damage over 12 seconds to a target and increases the effectiveness of your periodic effects on them by 20%. Upon expiration, travels to a new target within 25 yards, alternating between a friend and foe up to 3 times. That sounds kind of useful. Like, some of this stuff just sounds useful for, like, leveling, but you don't get these until you're max level. But I mean, as balance and as feral, you're definitely putting bleeds on stuff. Bleeds and hots and dots. You're doing that in the other forms as well. Not as often, but you're still doing it. Sounds fine. I really like the fact that it travels to a new target within 25 yards. It's fine. Convoke the spirits. Call upon the Night Fae for an eruption of energy. Oh, this is the one that sounds amazing. Channeling a rapid flurry of 16 druid spells and abilities over 4 seconds. You will cast Moonfire, Wrath, Regrowth, Rejuvenation, Thrash, Rake, Shred, and Ironfur on appropriate nearby targets, favoring your current specialization. 4-second channel, 2-minute cooldown. Yeah, so Night Fae is on theme for druids, definitely, and this just sounds like a batshit crazy ability. Yeah, this sounds really cool. Just casting a buttload of spells over 4 seconds. I like that quite a bit. Hernfjord, thanks for tuning into the stream. Says, I like the new changes they do to Shadowlands, especially with the professions. I have been skipping over those because I still can't get excited about professions, but I will try to take a deep dive into the articles. My eyes sort of glaze over every time I look at them, but I'll definitely take a look at them and see if I can wrap my head around what's going on and actually talk about those in one of these news videos. Because I've been saying it for a while, like, just do anything to make professions more interesting, and it seems like they're trying. So I'll get in there and we'll take a look at them. All right, Hunter Covenant abilities. Okay, Night Fae, Convoke Spirits. It's definitely the most exciting one to me. Hunter, Resonating Arrow. Oh yeah, this is a cool one. Fire a resonating arrow to the target location that fills the area with echoing anima for 10 seconds. This effect causes your attacks to ignore line of sight to enemies in the area, and you have 30% increased critical strike chance against them. Okay, so hopefully this is the Kyrian one that I'm the most excited about, like, finally over the other ones. This is really cool. It's very like, oh man, Hanzo from Overwatch. So you can kind of like shoot this thing into a building, and then you can like aim shot snipe things through walls. It's super cool. I like it a lot. So let's see if the other abilities seem more exciting. Flayed Shot. Fire a shot at your enemy, causing them to bleed for 250% of attack power shadow damage over 20 seconds. Okay, that's a pretty long time. You're probably going to hopefully kill your target within 20 seconds. Each time Flayed Shot deals damage, you have a 15% chance to gain Flayer's Mark, causing your next kill shot to be usable on any target, regardless of their current health. All right, Resonating Arrow still wins. Death Chakram. Throw a deadly chakram at your current target, which will rapidly deal 50% of attack power shadow damage up to 7 times. Each time the chakram damages a different target, its damage is increased by 15% and you generate 3 focus. Okay, so you send like a bouncy chakram blade out. That's cool. Wild Spirits. Summon a wild spirit at the target location that applies wild mark to all enemy targets below it for 15 seconds. While the wild spirit is active, each ability you used against a target affected by the wild mark calls forth a spirit beast to strike your target for 45% of attack power arcane damage. That sounds like visually it could be super cool. I still think Resonating Arrow is like the ability here that I think is like thematically the coolest, but Wild Spirits definitely has, that could look incredibly cool if they do it right. What do you think, Hunter mains? Let me know. Hunter Sharon, what is it? Sharon Gin? I don't know, man. Arrow. Yeah. I forgot. I don't know. I watched Naruto at one point, but not like a bunch. All right, moving on to Mage. We have Radiant Spark. Conjure a Radiant Spark that causes 75% of spell power arcane damage instantly. Okay. And an additional 30% of spell power damage over 8 seconds. The target takes 10% increased damage from your direct damage spells, stacking each time they are struck. This effect ends after 4 spells. There goes my dogs. They can't go a stream without barking. So basically you hit the target for some damage. You put a dot on them. And then your next spell does 10% increased damage, then 20, then 30, then 40. That could be interesting. I'm thinking like Fire Mage, like I cast Radiant Spark. I do like, I don't know, like a Fireball, Fire Blast. I get my proc, and then my 4th ability is a Empowered Pyroblast or something to finish the target. That could be cool. And I believe this should be 30-second cooldown, not range. That's a pretty short cooldown, so you could actually build this into your rotation, and it could change the way that you play your class. It's interesting. Mirrors of Torment. Conjure 3 mirrors to torment the enemy for 20 seconds. Once again, 20 seconds is pretty long for just like normal stuff that you're doing. Whenever the target casts a spell or ability, a mirror is consumed to inflict 75% of spell power shadow damage, and their movement and cast speed are slowed by 15%. The final mirror will instead inflict 198% of spell power shadow damage to the enemy, rooting and silencing them for 4 seconds. So it's kind of like a cool CC ability. I can see this being fun in PvP. Deathborn. Transform into a powerful... I'm already in. Transform into a powerful skeletal mage for 20 seconds. Yeah. Yes, please. While in the form of a skeletal mage, your Frostbolt, Fireball, and Arcane Blast hit up to 2 enemies near your target, and your spell damage is increased... Oh, that's so cool. Increased by 10%. I'll finish the sentence. That just sounds fun. All right, you turn into a skeletal mage, and then you're just like hitting 3 targets with your fireball. I play fire mage, okay? So that's just where my head's going. Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. Shifting Power. Draw power from the ground beneath you for 6 seconds, dealing 60% of spell power nature damage. 1.5 seconds to enemies within 15 yards, while channeling your mage ability cooldowns are reduced every second. Okay. So maybe this will allow you to use those big cooldowns quite a bit. 45-second cooldown on Shifting Power, so you can use this pretty frequently. So maybe after you do a big burst with a lot of your like 1, 2, 3+ minute cooldown abilities, you can Shifting Power on the next group of enemies, and drastically reduce the cooldown on your big cooldowns and be able to have them up, you know, for the next pack or the one after that. That definitely sounds cool. I think there's certainly going to be a use for that, getting to use those cooldowns over and over again. But Skeletal Mage, I'm doing that. That sounds cool. Necrolord, I mean, Mage doesn't really have a theme. My Mage doesn't have a theme for me, so that definitely sounds fun. Unless you're Undead Mage, yes. Well, oh yeah. I'm not an Undead Mage, okay? My character's not an Undead Mage, and I think I am going to race change it, but not to Undead. So, yeah, that is, I guess if you're an Undead Mage and you turn into an Undead Mage, that's a little bit less exciting. Turn into yourself. No. Okay. We're getting into him here. So Monk is like my number one pick right now for main for Shadowlands. So let's see if these Covenant abilities are cool or not. All right, Weapons of Order. For the next 30 seconds, your mastery is increased by 15%. I'm already bored. Additionally, Windwalker's Rising Sun Kick cooldown is reset instantly. All the time or just once? And your Rising Sun Kick reduces the cost of your Chi abilities by 1 for 5 seconds. Brewmaster's Keg Smash cooldown is reset, and enemies hit by Keg Smash take 5% increased damage from you, stacking 5 times. Mistweaver's Essence Font cooldown is reset instantly and heals nearby allies for 240% of spell power on channel start and end. Wow. Okay, that was an incredibly boring description. I feel like in practice, this probably will feel pretty cool because you'll get to slam a bunch of buttons over and over again. But man, what a boring sounding ability. It definitely does not scream Skeletal Mage. Let's continue on. Fallen Order. Opens a mirror for the next 24 seconds, summoning reflections of your order's fallen Ox, Crane, and Tiger Adepts every 3 seconds for 6 seconds. Every 3, 4, 6 seconds. Okay. Some numbers got to be off there. Fallen monks that have mastered the Ox Crane Tiger style will attack your enemies with Keg Smash, heal with Renewing Mist, or assault with Fist of Fury and assist for an additional 2 seconds. So that's cool. It spawns a bunch of minions. I think it's Earth, Wind, Fire or whatever is an ability that actually lets you drastically increase your DPS output on Windwalker Monk. So this sounds kind of like that, but you can use it across all specs. Probably fun. Not the level of excitement I'm looking for, but probably fun. Bone Dust Brew. Hurl a brew created from the bones of your enemies at the ground, coating all targets struck for 10 seconds. Your abilities have a 15% chance to affect the target a second time at 25% effectiveness as shadow damage or healing. If you are a Mistweaver, Gust of Mist heals your target with your Bone Dust Brew active for an additional amount. Brewmaster, Tiger Palm, and Keg Smash reduce the cooldown of your brews by an additional 1 second when striking enemies with your Bone Dust Brew active. And as Windwalker, Spinning Crane Kick refunds 1 Chi when striking enemies with your Bone Dust Brew active. I don't like these kinds of abilities. I want my ability to do something weird, something fun, not just, hey, you can do more of what you already do. Like, it's good, right? Like, mechanically it's good, but Feline Stomp. Strike the ground fiercely to expose a Feline. Okay, Feline Stomp. For 30 seconds, dealing 60% of attack power and nature damage and igniting enemies with Breath of Fire. That sounds really cool. Healing allies with an Essence Font Bolt. And ripping Chi and energy spheres out of enemies as a Windwalker. Your abilities have a 10% chance of resetting the cooldown of Feline Stomp while fighting on a Feline. That sounds kind of cool. Like you just stomp and Breath of Fire goes everywhere. Or you stomp and a bunch of spheres pop out. I don't know. I think like all these sound like they're probably pretty good, but just in terms of like what probably looks cool and feels really good to push the button for, I think Fallen Order and Phalanx Stomp probably are the most interesting here. Oh, that makes me sad. I wish Monk just sounded cooler. I'll just have to see him in action. All right, Paladin. Wow, what the heck? There's a lot going on here. Divine Toll. Instantly cast Holy Shock, Avenger Shield, or Judgment on up to 5 targets within 30 yards based on your current specialization. I've seen this in action. It's actually pretty cool. With the Avenger Shield, just 8 million shields going out. And to be honest, if I play Paladin, it's probably going to be Prop Paladin. So it's a pretty cool ability. Plus, Kyrian is super on theme with Paladins, I think. Ashen Hallow. Or Hallow. Hallow the target area for 30 seconds. Every 2 seconds, an enemy in the area suffers 150% of spell power shadow damage, and an ally in the area is healed for 160% of spell power. Within the Hallow, you may use Hammer of Wrath on any target. Okay, sounds cool. It's like another weird consecration. Vanquisher's Hammer. All right, so Ret, you throw a hammer at your target, dealing shadow damage and empowering your next Templar's Verdict to automatically trigger Divine Storm. For Holy, you throw a hammer at your target, dealing shadow damage and empowering your next Word of Glory to automatically trigger Light of Dawn. And for Protection, you throw a hammer, dealing shadow damage and empowering your next Word of Glory to automatically trigger Shield of the Righteous. Blessing of the Seasons. Okay. Bless your nearby party members for 1 minute, causing their cooldowns to recover 10% faster. Blessing of Seasons turns to Winter after use. So Winter, you bless yourself for a minute, reducing the movement speed of enemies within 40 yards by 20% and their attack speed by 10%. This then turns into Spring. You increase healing done and healing received by 10%, and then you go to Summer, where you cause attacks to have a high chance to deal holy damage. Okay. And then it turns into Autumn. So out of all these, I like Divine Toll. Just sending out 1 million different shields. That sounds pretty cool. Ashen Hallow. Hallow sounds pretty cool as a like secondary consecration. And I really like Blessing of the Seasons. Like, for me, when I'm playing a Protection Paladin, I like, basically being a walking like shield, like I like having the auras, this kind of like blessing thing going on, like all that sort of like, if you're near me, you're just inherently better. I really like that about being a paladin. So I think that like Night Fae might be what I would choose for paladin just on the basis of that. It's another way to be like, I really like playing that like support character when I'm playing as a paladin. So that's pretty cool. I like it quite a bit. Blessing of the Seasons sounds pretty sweet, but the rest of these sound pretty good as well. I'm not like overly thrilled about Vanquisher's Hammer. It sounds like a cool effect. I think the animation on the hammer is actually gonna like do a lot to sway me one way or the other. If it feels really crunchy, then maybe it'd be worth taking a look at. Hello again, Cass. All right, we're moving on to Priest. Before we jump in, don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying it, having a good time. And I want to re-emphasize that if you are maining any of these classes, I want to know, why are you choosing the Covenant that you are? If you've thought about it a little bit, or why are you leaning towards one over the other? Is it because of the abilities, or is it because of the theme? The transmogs and stuff like that. And also, which one of these abilities sounds the coolest for you? Even if you're not maining a class, which one sounds the most interesting? Now, a little precursor to Priest here. I've said this a bunch of times, is the class I play the least. It's the class I find the least interesting. So please forgive me if I'm not insanely excited about any of these abilities. Also, like, Shadow's in a real bad spot at the moment. That was in a other article. Blizzard has acknowledged that Shadow's like kind of garbage, but they don't have any other updates about it. All right, Boon of the Ascended. Draw upon the power of the Ascended for 10 seconds, granting access to Ascended Nova, replacing Mind Flay or Smite with Ascended Blast and increasing your movement speed by 50%. I like that. Upon expiration, it releases an Ascended Eruption Explode for 150% of spell power arcane damage to all enemies and 200% of spell power healing to all allies within 15 yards, increased by 3% for each stack of Boon of the Ascended. Okay. Weird. I think I would really have to play this one to know what the heck is going on. So Mind Games. Assault an enemy's mind, dealing 200% of spell power shadow damage and briefly reversing their perception of reality. For 5 seconds, the next damage they deal will heal their target, and the next healing they do will damage their target. This generates up to 40 insanity. Reverse damage and healing generate up to 40 insanity, or restore up to 4% mana. That is kind of cool. I actually kind of like that. So you cast this on a target, and then all the damage they do to you heals you instead. That sounds really good if you're solo. And if they try to heal themselves or a friend, they deal damage instead. That actually sounds real fun. It's only 5 seconds, but it has a 45-second cooldown, so you can use it fairly often. That sounds like it would help a lot. Just playing as priest. Yeah, I like it. Unholy Nova. Okay. An explosion of dark energy heals allies within 15 yards for 150% of spell power and infects nearby enemies with Unholy Transfusion. Unholy Transfusion deals 200% of spell power shadow damage over 15 seconds. Allies who damage this target receive healing. That's super cool. Man, what the heck? I'm more like pumped about these priest covenant abilities than I was about the monk ones. That actually sounds really fun. I like big explosions. I like big AoE effects. And yeah, this is like just put a dot on everything around you right away. That's cool. And then when your allies damage the targets, they get healed. I like that a lot. Fey Blessings. Surround yourself with helpful sprites, causing your next 10 spell casts to aid your target depending on your chosen spell. Okay. So, Discipline, Shadow Mend, Mind Blast, reduce an ally's damage taken by 10%. Power Word Shield, invigorate your target with 2% mana or 20% resource. Power Word Radiance reduces the cooldown of one major ability on... Wow, this is actually a pretty interesting ability. So you cast Fey Blessings. It's on a 1.5 minute cooldown. You know, like 1.5 minute cooldown. By the time you cast 10 spells, like this thing is probably pretty close to being up again. And the effect changes depending on the spell that you cast, even within each specialization. That actually adds a lot of interesting gameplay, I think. So, Holy, Flash Heal and Heal, reduce damage taken. Power Word Shield. Yep, we get the resource back. And Prayer of Healing, reduce the cooldowns. Okay, so basically it's the same across all the specs, but different abilities within each one trigger the effect. Okay. Yeah, that's still pretty interesting, though. I think that's actually pretty neat. Oh, let me catch up here. Oh, Aggie joined in. Hello, Aggie. Need to be adults and put that green screen back up? Yeah, it is what it is. These videos are casual. Lost Soul likes no green screen. There we go. Cass says Shadow is her favorite specialization too. Yep, we're on board. I actually like it too. No green screen for this video is good. Yeah, I agree. I think maybe I can get a frame going. I have some frames, but yeah, for these new style videos, I think they are what they are. I actually want to, we're going off on a tangent, right? Come with me, join me. I actually just kind of like, I have this whole blank wall here and I can't really put like a shelf back there because my rabbits will eat it. But I would like to get like some posters or something to go back there. So, you know, it's not just a boring wall. I think that would be interesting. And then I wouldn't always have to have the green screen. I really need to get the mobile green screen that I don't have to hang on my wall. I think that'll be like my next streaming purchase will be to get that. I'm just worried about my rabbits chewing on the bottom of that as well. They just chew everything. Makes it more casual. Set the priests. Yeah. Damn, that's good. What's good? Which one? You got to be specific because I don't catch up on the chat until later. But yeah, I like Unholy Nova. That sounds fun. Mind Game sounds pretty cool too. But yeah, Unholy Nova. That sounds kind of my style. Plus Shadow Priest in the Necrolord faction. I could see it. Pretty cool. All right, Rogue. So Rogue was kind of up there for me on a potential class to main. It's gone down quite a bit since then. I don't know if it's top 3, top 5, or just not in the running anymore. We'll have to see what they do with it. Echoing Reprimand. Deal 60% of attack power arcane damage to an enemy, extracting their anima to anima charge a combo point. And all this anima stuff is making me think anime. Like we're charging up for a Kaioken Dragon Ball Z thing right now. Damaging finishing moves that consume the same number of your... Oh yeah, this one. Of your combo points as your anima charge. Deal damage as if they consume 7 combo points. Awards 3 combo points. Okay, so basically when you hit this thing, it gives you a random number of like combo points. Like let's say 3. And then if you do a finishing move with 3 combo points... While they have the 3 like anima charge combo points up, instead it deals damage like you consumed 7. If they have 3 anima charge combo points up and you do a 4 combo point finisher, it just does the damage as if you did a 4 combo point finisher. So it's a weird like matching sort of thing. The general feedback on this ability has not been very good, and I did watch it on one of Priest videos, and it looked super unappealing to me. So maybe they'll tweak it or change it or something, but right now it just doesn't look good, doesn't look fun. Pass. Slaughter. Slaughter the target, causing about 100% physical damage. The target's anima mixes with your lethal poison, coating your weapons for the next 5 minutes. Slaughter Poison deals shadow damage over time and steals 15% of healing done to the target. Also rewards 2 combo points. 50 energy, melee range, instant, and requires stealth. So this is kind of like a replacement for an opener or possibly something you could like shadow weave into. Okay, so for 5 minutes, you get Slaughter Poison. So you just automatically put a dot on your target, which is what you're probably going to use most of the time. And you get to steal 15% of healing done to the target. If it was you were just like 15% lifesteal or something, I would be like, yeah, this sounds really cool. But I mean, if you're fighting an enemy that's not getting any healing, then you're not stealing any healing either. So you really just are doing a different kind of shadow damage. I'm not crazy excited about that. That's probably a decent PvP ability, though. That seems solid for PvP. Stealing the healing off of a PvP target sounds good. Serrated Bone Spike. Embed a bone spike in the target, dealing 60% of attack power physical damage every 5 seconds until they die. Okay. Attacking with Serrated Bone Spike causes all of your active bone spikes to fracture and strike your current target, increasing initial damage by 100% per spike. What the? 10 energy, 30-yard range, instant, no cooldown? Okay, embed a bone spike in the target, dealing physical damage every 5 seconds until they die. Okay. Is it attacking a target with the bone spike? Attacking with Serrated Bone Spike causes all of your active bone spikes to fracture and strike your current target. There's something missing here in the translation, I feel like. Because if you put a bone spike into a target and then you attack a different one with the bone spike, and it fractures the previous one, you can only ever have one up at a time. But the way this reads, it sounds like you should be able to like put in like 5 bone spikes or something to different targets and deal. I don't know. Either way, I like the way this ability sounds. Even if it didn't like do the whole fracture and strike your current target thing, I like that a lot. Like just dealing physical damage every 5 seconds until they die. This seems like an easy way to spend 10 energy when you start attacking. I like that quite a bit. I got to see if this is updated. Maybe I'm just not understanding it quite right, but I feel like there are a few key words missing in this description. Either way, I like it. Sepsis. Infect the target's blood, dealing nature damage over 10 seconds. If the target survives its full duration, they suffer additional damage and you vanish from sight. Cooldown reduced by 60 seconds if sepsis does not last for its full duration. And we don't have a cooldown duration for that. That's kind of cool, especially if you're playing a specialization where you want to like, do like ambush multiple times or something. You can sepsis on the target, deal some damage over 10 seconds, vanish, ambush. That sounds pretty fun. I mean, as rogue, you're probably killing normal targets in way under 10 seconds. So I don't know how effective this would be in that situation, but like a dungeon boss or, like a tough raid or maybe a mythic plus or something. Sounds pretty good. I think overall, I like Serrated Bone Spike the most, for sure. Whiteboard paint. No, just get some posters. I didn't say anything about anime posters. Would YouTube be okay with that? I'm sure they would. Even if they're anime posters, we're not talking about hentai posters. Come on, Lost. Sorry you were talking about the cooldown. That's some kind of cooldown. I never seem to be able to get in a raid party that makes sense, and it takes up way too much time. Might not go back to WoW again with my own account, because if I do, I'll want to mythic raid again and hate myself again. But I'll probably play on my account in order to help me level classes faster. That would be nice. All right, Shaman Covenant abilities. So once again, this is a top class for me in the running for main in Shadowlands. So let's see if they have some cool Covenant abilities. Now, Vesper Totem I have heard of before. Kyrian was the first faction that everyone had access to, and their Covenant abilities were available. It says, summon a totem at the target location for 30 seconds. Your next 3 damaging spells or abilities will cause the totem to radiate arcane damage to up to 6 enemies near the totem, and your next 3 healing spells will heal up to 6 allies near the totem for, some additional health. Casting this ability again while a totem is active will relocate the totem. Now, the way this works is you get 3 charges for both things. 3 charges for damaging spells and 3 charges for healing spells. So you use up those charges and then you can cast the totem again. So it's not like 6 total charges, whatever you do. It seems pretty interesting. The feedback on this generally was pretty good. It's not overwhelmingly exciting, but I don't know. I think if you're on your own, it's going to be pretty easy to keep enemies near the totem, and that's going to make it easy to deal the AoE damage, but Chain Harvest. Send a wave of Anima at the target, which then jumps to additional nearby targets. Deals 45% of spell damage, shadow damage, up to 5 enemies, and restores 120% of spell power health to up to 5 allies. For each target critically struck, the cooldown of Chain Harvest is reduced by 5 seconds. So, Monk has an ability kind of like this, where you basically shoot it out and it bounces through targets, and if it hits an enemy, it deals damage. If it hits an ally, it heals. It's a pretty cool ability. It's a talent for monks. This seems fine. Not overly exciting, but a nice ability. Primordial Wave. Blast your target with a Primordial Wave, dealing 65% of spell power plus 65% of attack power, shadow damage, and apply Flame Shock to an enemy or heal an ally, and apply Riptide, resto only, to them. Your next Lava Burst, Lightning Bolt, Healing Wave will also hit all targets affected by your Flame Shock or Riptide. Okay, this is a little bit more of a complicated ability here just because you have to filter things out. Let's look at Enhancement, which is the spec I'm interested in playing. So we would deal shadow damage and apply flame shock to an enemy or heal an ally. Okay, so that one sounds like it's separate for resto. So we deal some shadow damage and apply flame shock. And then our lightning bolt, our next lightning bolt, will also hit targets affected by your Riptide. Weird. Yeah, I would just have to play with that one. So it deals initial shadow damage and then puts a flame shock on, which you probably want anyway. And then I don't know how often you're casting Lightning Bolt as enhancement, because enhancement has changed quite a bit. Like based on current enhancement, that doesn't sound too good. But if you are casting a lot of Lightning Bolts in the new version of enhancement, then yeah, that sounds fine. Fey Transfusion. Transfer the life force of up to 8 enemies in the target area, dealing 25% of spell power plus 25% of attack power. Seems to be a common theme with the shaman abilities. Nature damage every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds. So you get 6 ticks of this. Pressing Fey Transfusion again within 20 seconds will release 75% of all damage from Fey Transfusion, healing up to 8 allies near yourself. That actually sounds pretty useful. So you get 2 or 3 enemies that you're fighting. You hit Fey Transfusion. It's going to deal a good chunk of nature damage to them. And then you're able to release that as a heal for yourself afterwards. That actually sounds pretty useful. I don't know. Among all these, I think I would have to play with these, I think, before I decided which one I wanted to take. I mean, on surface level, I like Fey Transfusion quite a bit. It just seems really useful for the kind of content I do, which is just kind of going out solo and doing my own thing. An extra AoE damage over time ability that then translates into a heal that I can use as well. Just sounds pretty good all around. Theme-wise, I don't know. Shaman's weird. Like, maybe Night Fae is the most on theme. It's very nature, very, yeah, maybe that's the most on theme, too. All right, we got 2 left, Warlock and Warrior. Let's see. So I just started running dungeons for the first time ever 3 weeks ago. My guild had me run mythics last weekend, and I'm still pretty bad at it. How are you bad on it? No, I'm just kidding. Working on learning ground mechanics, been focusing on unlocking allied races, gearing, getting a cloak, and leveling all my alts. Yeah, well, you've got, at least like 6 months to do all that stuff. I've power leveled a tune just by dungeons looking for group, which I'm proud of. Awesome, Cass. Good. Join the Pug. Team Pug. That's what I'm doing over here. Yeah, it's nice that you have a good guild that you can work towards. I was going to say, why are you struggling? But you're struggling. You're learning the mythic dungeon aspect of things, not the class aspect of things. So, all right, 2 classes left. Another reminder just to like the video if you are enjoying this stream, or if you're watching it later on YouTube. All right, Warlock Covenant abilities. Scouring Tithe. Deal 100% of spell power arcane damage instantly and 144% of spell power over 18 seconds. That's a really long time. If the enemy dies while affected by Scouring Tide, you generate 5 soul shards. Okay. If they survive, the cooldown is refreshed. Okay, so you can basically constantly have this up on bosses. Just another dot on top of all the other dots that you already have as a warlock. Impending Catastrophe. Call forth a cloud of chaotic anima that travels to the target enemy, dealing 100% of spell power, shadow damage to enemies within their path. I like that already. This is like a positioning sort of ability. You can like be better at using this ability by paying attention to where you are at in the battlefield and trying to catch enemies between you and your target. So that's cool. When the anima reaches the target, it explodes, inflicting either Curse of Weakness or Curse of Tongues and dealing 261% of spell power shadow damage over 12 seconds to all nearby enemies. That sounds super cool. I like that a lot, actually. Decimating Bolt. Hurl a bolt of shadow magic at your target, dealing 4 times 50% of spell power. It's a weird way to say 200%. Shadow damage, and increasing the damage of your next incinerates, drain souls, or shadow bolts by 200%. Okay, so chunky piece of damage, and then boost to kind of like some of your main abilities you're going to be using. Decimation Bolt's damage and the bonus to incinerate, drain soul, or shadow bolt both increase as your target's health decreases. Okay, so it's got a little execute thing going on as well. That's also pretty cool. I think it's appropriate that Warlock has some pretty cool sounding abilities for Venthyr and Necrolord. They're pretty on theme for the Warlock. And Soul Rot. That sounds awesome. Wither away all life force of your current target and up to 3 additional targets nearby, causing them to suffer 100% of spell power and nature damage over 8 seconds. Drain life will also be cast on any enemy affected by your Soul Rot. That's cool, but it consumes 20% of your maximum health when cast. I think visually that actually will look pretty sweet. Just 4 drain souls all going at the same time. If you're playing a specialization or you just have it keyed up where like your Void Walker is, tanking things up for you, this could actually be pretty cool. Sounds like it'll look pretty sweet. I don't know. Warlock abilities all sound pretty good. I'm not crazy about the Scouring Tithe. Once again, Kyrian kind of falling short for me. But the rest of them sound pretty sweet. All right, Warrior, last one. Spear of Bastion. Throw a Kyrian Spear at the target location, dealing 200% of attack power arcane damage instantly, dealing additional 216% of attack power damage over 4 seconds, and generating rage. Enemies hit are tethered to the Spear of Bastion's location for the duration. So this ability actually sounds really sweet. You get a ranged ability on a warrior, which is awesome. It deals instant damage, and then a dot that only lasts 4 seconds, which is actually pretty nice because it means all that damage gets dealt really quickly. It gives you some rage. I could definitely see chucking this thing and then charging in, or whirlwinding, or blade storm, or whatever. This sounds like it's going to be great for big chunky AoE attacks. It also looks cool. We've seen this one already. Condemn replaces your execute. Condemn a foe to suffer for their sins, causing up to shadow damage. Only usable on enemies who are above 80% health or below 20% health. The primary target is weakened, preventing up to damage they would deal to you. If your foe survives, 20% of the rage spent is refunded. Okay, this all depends, I think, on how hard this thing hits. Because you can use it right away on an opponent that you haven't really dealt damage to, and if this takes off 20% of their health or something, that's actually really nice. And then below 20% health, if you can hit this again and finish them off, also really nice. So yeah, I think this just comes down to how hard this thing hits. 20 to 40 rage cost is pretty expensive on the 40 rage, and I don't know how I feel about that one. Conqueror's Banner. Brandish the banner of the Necrolords for 2 minutes, increasing your movement speed by 10%. Already like that. And causing Mortal Strike, Raging Blow, and Shield Slam to grant you glory. Killing an enemy grants 2 stacks of glory. Reactivating this ability plants the banner in the ground, granting 20% maximum health and 50% attack speed to you and 4 allies within 15 yards of the banner. Lasts 2 seconds per glory, up to 30 seconds. So you hit this ability, you go around, and you use whatever your ability is. It sounds like one of your primary abilities for each of your specializations. And so you use that, you kill a bunch of enemies, and then you plant the banner in the ground, and you gain maximum health and attack speed. You and all your friends. That sounds interesting. Yeah, I wonder how high you can get these stacks up. I mean, if you're in an average dungeon, and let's say you hit this, and within 2 minutes you kill, 1 or 2 packs, you're looking at like 3 to 10 maybe enemies killed, depending on if it makes you get the killing blow or if it's just you participated in the kill. So let's look at the top end, right? You get 10 enemies killed, and during that time you shield slam, I don't know. How many times are you going to shield slam in 2 minutes? I don't know. Let's say 6. Let's say we're at 15 stacks. All right, we'll just oddball at 15 stacks. So you've got 30 seconds. Yeah, maximum 30 seconds of 20% maximum health and 50% attack speed. So the 20% maximum health, sure, that's fine. 50% attack speed to you and all your allies in that dungeon, that's actually pretty sweet for a solid 30 seconds. That's pretty crazy. I bet that would be real fun, especially if it has a good animation and you're just like, banner, go. All right, Ancient Aftershock. Slam the ground with your weapon, releasing a shockwave, dealing 220% of attack power nature damage and stunning up to 5 enemies. Already like it. For 1.5 seconds. Enemies struck take 42% of attack power nature damage every 2 seconds for 12 seconds and transfer it to you as 6 rage. That sounds freaking awesome. Wow. I wonder if it's like a cone shockwave, like actual shockwave. Either way, like you're already used to trying to hit multiple enemies with shockwave anyway to reset the cooldown if you're talented into that. So you're going to have that playstyle like already embedded in your brain. You're going to hit these enemies for 1.5 seconds to stun them, but then they're going to have a dot on them, which is something that, depending on your specialization, is not always easy to apply as a warrior to multiple targets. And then they're just going to transfer. That's a huge like rage steroid. That's pretty cool. I don't think I'm going to go Night Fae on my warrior just because like my warrior is an undead warrior and I feel like I have to go Necrolord or Venthyr just on principle of like the theme matching. But that's actually a really cool ability. I like that a lot. That's it. That's all the Covenant abilities. A lot of these, we're just sitting here reading them on text, which I know isn't the most exciting thing, but I like kind of the deep dive into them and just, trying to figure out, like, does this ability sound cool? Not just mechanically, but like, do I think it's going to feel cool to play? And for the most part, I think I got a fairly good idea of, which ones seem really exciting to, hit that button and go, yeah, I did something really awesome. Some of them, honestly, I think like I just need to play in order to actually, or maybe see a video to see how interesting they are. And then some of them just sound kind of boring. But I will say, like, on the whole, like most of these abilities actually seemed pretty fun, pretty interesting. I still don't know how the choice of Covenant is going to come down and how you're going to figure that out. I mean, based on those warrior ones, like if I just had to pick one, I think I'd probably go with, I don't know, like a lot of them sound pretty fun. I'd probably not go with Condemn. I like the idea of the banner or Aftershock the most, but the spear is pretty cool too. So, I mean, if they do a good job with your class where it feels like all the abilities are actually pretty good, then I think you're okay. But, if for whatever reason there's an ability in here, like, I'm really not that interested in Condemn, but I really felt like, Venthyr was the like on theme faction that I wanted to go, that could feel bad, but I don't know. Am I going to pick the Covenant based on the theme or the ability or the soul binds? I don't know. They're making some tough decisions. And it's supposed to be pretty hard to change well, they said it's easy to switch from one Covenant to another, but it's hard to go back to a Covenant that you've left. So maybe you could kind of start with a Covenant you don't think you're very interested in. I'm hoping, I don't know if this is the case. I feel like I may have read this somewhere, but don't quote me on it. I'm hoping that as you level up, and I believe this is the case because they've been using the abilities on alpha, but you have to go through the zones in a particular order. And as you do that, if while you're, doing that content, while you're in that zone, they let you test out the Covenant ability. I think that would be really nice to be able to, like, you start out, I think, in Bastion with the Kyrians. So being able to play and experience the Kyrian ability, and then maybe you move on to the next one, whatever that is, Maldraxxus or whatever, and you get to try out the Necrolord ability, and so on and so on. And so you finally get to max level, you finish the thing, and you have to pick a Covenant ability. I'm pretty sure they're letting you play those abilities as you level up, and you're not just gonna have to blindly just go, oh, I guess this one. So that's gonna help. That's gonna help out to be able to try those abilities. And like I said, don't quote me on that. That appears to be the way that it works, but and that's the way I hope it would work, is that you get to kind of like test all the abilities before you pick one. And while you're doing that, you're getting to go around and check out the cities and the zones and everything for the faction as well, and kind of figure out which one really syncs up for you in terms of mechanics or, theme or whatever. So this is actually the, one of these is the priest. This is the priest Kyrian ability. And then this is the warrior, the spear. Pretty cool stuff. Overall, I think Shadowlands is really shaping up to be significantly more interesting than Battle for Azeroth was. Everything is still coming through pretty positive. Some of the downsides, like I said, it looks like the class gameplay itself, like the core class gameplay, might not be as interesting as I hope that it will be. But it looks like the layers that they're adding on to that gameplay through Covenant signature abilities, class abilities, the Soulbind system, legendaries, taking all that stuff and then going into Torghast and all the Anima powers that are there. It looks like all that stuff is actually looking more like, Legion and the artifact weapon than it is looking like BFA and Azerite armor. So it's a really, really good sign that is the case. And yeah, it means maybe the class guides, the base level class guides won't be that complicated. But once you add on those extra layers, and it's, not just, hey, here's a Prot Warrior guide. It's here's a Prot Warrior guide, and we're going to talk about the Covenant abilities, and we're going to talk about the Soulbinds, and we're going to talk about the legendaries, and oh, here's Prot Warrior inside Torghast, or Warrior Anima ability overview, and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's going to be a lot more complications there. Like, I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, man, how am I going to make a guide for a class when the Covenant ability is going to play such a big role and I can only pick one of them, So that's going to be kind of interesting. Like I said, I don't know that the core class gameplay itself is going to be all that complicated. I'm sure the guides and stuff would have value, but with the Covenant ability in particular, the class one being such an integral part of what you're doing with the class, and it being difficult to switch between covenants and stuff, I may just have to do something like, hey, on my death knight, I actually want to go Necrolord, so I'm going to go and, record some footage for Kyrian, then Venthyr, then Night Fae, then finally go Necrolord and just stick with that one or something. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how all that pans out, but like I said, overall, still looking really positive. I've got to dig into these profession changes and I don't know, at least look at them. I doubt I'll be excited about them, but that's fine. We'll see. At this point, I feel like I have so much to do already, with leveling the classes and trying to get a handle on all this and wanting to go into Torghast, that I may never get around to professions. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Once again, let me know in the comment section below, why are you choosing the Covenant that you're choosing? What abilities do you think sound the coolest for the classes that you want to play? Did I super miss the mark on something in terms of it being, too good or not too good, one way or the other? Let me know that kind of stuff. And let's see. Catch up on chat, and then I got a small announcement. Warlock dots for the win. Turn enemies into husks. Yes, all that kind of good stuff. So once again, don't forget to like the stream, like the video if you've been enjoying it. If you are tuned in right now, I want to let you know that this coming Saturday, I'm going to be doing a stream where I am going to build my UI from the ground up. I'm going to uninstall all my add-ons, reinstall them fresh. I'm just going to hop on live stream and just build the UI from nothing. Tweak all the settings. It's going to be a long stream. It's going to be trial error, figuring stuff out, trying to remember how I set up this add-on, that on. It's not going to be like a professional, smooth video. It's just going to be a live stream, hopefully a resource for those of you who have looked at my other, UI videos or my add-on guides, and maybe there's something you're like, I just can't figure out like how he did this. Well, I'm going to get on stream and I'm going to set my UI up just like I do when I'm not on stream. And we're just going to use that hopefully as a resource for anybody who needs it, anybody who has questions and goes, hey man, I watched your video and I can't figure out how to do this. I want to be able to kind of direct them over and be like, well, here's exactly how I set it up to get it to look the way that I wanted to. And while we're doing that, I'll be doing a couple of updates, tweaking a few things to my UI as well. So it'll probably be a little bit different than what you've seen in previous videos. And this will be a good sort of practice session for the next like UI video when I kind of overhaul and change things for Shadowlands after that comes out. So if you're interested in that kind of stream, be sure to tune in Saturday. I don't have a time yet, but I will post it on the community page of the YouTube channel. I'll also post it in Discord. You can join the channel Discord for free. I've got a video up for that. Just check it out. Click the video tab on the channel. It's got a big Discord icon on it. It's 100% free to join right now. There's no Patreon restriction to get into the Discord channel, so you can hop in there if you want to, and I'll put the announcement in there as well. And yeah, that's going to be going on Saturday, so hopefully I'll see some of you there. It will be recorded, so if you can't tune in, you'll be able to watch the VOD later on as well. So, all right, everybody, I appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch the stream, and hopefully you are getting excited about Shadowlands as well. I appreciate the support that I've gotten from people commenting on videos, just saying, hey, yay, thanks. I hope you like Shadowlands, don't quit WoW, etc., etc. Like I said, it's looking pretty good. I'm kind of having to eat my words here, but I've said it a million times. I'd prefer to eat my words and have a great WoW expansion than to be proven right and have a garbage one. So, so far, it looks like that's what's happening. So hopefully you're excited. I'm excited. I hope you're having fun in whatever it is that you're doing. As always, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, chat. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. See some of you on Saturday. All right. Peace.